You know, for over 70 years, one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever has been hiding a secret. Sure, the Dead Sea Scrolls gave us the oldest copies of the Hebrew Bible, which is incredible, but they also held the private texts of a mysterious community that just vanished. So today, we're going to be historical detectives. We're going to uncover who these people really were.
Okay, let's just jump right in. We have these amazing, ancient scrolls, perfectly preserved for 2,000 years in desert caves. So who are the people that spent their lives copying and writing them? And who are they hiding from? And maybe the biggest question of all, where did they go? This is the mystery we're setting out to solve right now.
Our story doesn't start in some library or ancient city. Nope. It begins in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the Judean wilderness. This is where a pretty radical group decided to pack it all in, leave civilization behind, and go searching for a pure way of life.
So, to get our bearings, here's the quick timeline. It all kicks off around the 150s BC. A group of priests gets totally fed up with all the foreign, Hellenistic influence creeping into Jerusalem, so they leave. For the next couple hundred years, their community in the desert actually thrives, and they develop all these unique rules and beliefs. But then, fast forward to 68 AD. The Roman army is on the march, and they completely destroy the settlement. In a last-ditch effort, the community hides their sacred library in the nearby caves, and that's where they stayed, hidden for nearly 2,000 years.
So you have to be asking, how on earth can we know what life was like for such a secretive group? Well, lucky for us, they weren't just scribes, they were also rule followers. And they left behind their instruction manual, a seriously detailed rule book that laid out every single aspect of their lives.
It's called the Rule of the Community, and this text is an absolute game-changer for historians. It gives us this incredible, unprecedented look inside their highly structured world. It's really our main window into what they believed, their daily routines, and the strict social ladder that held their whole society together.
And their beliefs? Whoa, they were intense. They saw themselves as the only true priests left, the legit sons of Zadok. They were convinced they were living in a new covenant with God. Get this, they believed their super pure community, just by existing, was a kind of living atonement for the sins of all of Israel. No animal sacrifices needed. For them, all of human history was just one big cosmic war between a prince of light and an angel of darkness. And they weren't just waiting for one Messiah, they were expecting two, a priest Messiah and a king Messiah.
And this is what's so fascinating. Right alongside these huge cosmic ideas about the universe, their day-to-day life was micromanaged by these unbelievably strict and, let's be honest, kind of weird rules. I mean, look at this. Interrupt someone, that's 10 days with less food. Fall asleep in a meeting, or spit, or even laugh too loudly, that'll cost you a whole month of reduced rations. But the absolute deal breaker? If you ever dared to pronounce the sacred name of God, the Tetragrammaton, that was it. You were out, kicked out for good.
And if you were thinking of joining them, well, good luck. You couldn't just walk in and sign up. First, you had to pass an intense examination by the council and their leader, who they called the Master. If and only if they gave you the thumbs up, you then started a grueling 2-year probation. You had to prove your total commitment for 2 full years before they would even take a final vote to let you in. This was not a casual club. It was an exclusive, elite society, and they were serious about it.
Okay, so we've got a handle on how they lived. But a community this intense, this exclusive, you just know they're going to have some enemies. To figure out who they are up against, we have to learn to read their writings the way they did. We have to crack their code.
And that code has a name, Pesher. This is their unique way of reading Scripture. They believed that the ancient biblical prophecies weren't really about the past. No, they were secret predictions about their specific time, their leaders, and most importantly, their enemies. They thought they were living in the last days, and the Bible was like a coded map to navigating the final battle.
Let's see how it works in practice. So they'd take a line from one of the biblical prophets, like this one here from the book of Nahum, talking about a lion filling its cave with prey. Now to you and me, that's just some ancient poetry, right? But to the Qumran community, this was a headline about current events. And boom, here's their decoded version. That lion? It's not a lion. It's the furious young lion, which was their code name for a real historical person, a ruthless king named Alexander Jannaeus. And his prey? Well, they were another group with a code name, the Seekers After Smooth Things. The text mentions the lion hanging his enemies alive, which is a pretty clear reference to crucifixion, a brutal punishment that Jannaeus was infamous for using on his political rivals.
So who were these seekers after smooth things? This is where they get really clever and, frankly, pretty savage with their insults. It's all based on this brilliant Hebrew pun. See, the word for smooth things, halakot, sounds almost identical to the word for religious laws, halakot. Their main rivals, the group that would become the Pharisees, were all about interpreting religious laws. So the Qumran folks gave them a nickname that basically called their laws slippery, treacherous, and fake. It was a deeply sophisticated burn hidden right there in the text.
So here's the bottom line. Once you crack their codes, their enemies list becomes crystal clear. You've got the wicked priest, some corrupt high priest back in Jerusalem who they say persecuted their own beloved leader, the teacher of righteousness. You've got the seekers after smooth things, their main religious rivals. And finally, you have the Kittim, their code name for the ultimate foreign threat, the big one looming on the horizon, the Romans.
All right, we've seen their strict, all-encompassing rules, we've decoded their cryptic enemies list. Now it's time to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and render a final verdict on who these people really were and what they're all about.
Now, it's really tempting to draw parallels between the Qumran community and early Christianity, and a lot of people do. But when you actually put them side by side, the differences are just stark. Qumran was closed off, exclusive, and hierarchical. Early Christianity was open, missionary, and inclusive. The Qumran sect was literally commanded to hate its enemies. Jesus famously instructed his followers to love their enemies. The Qumran texts show no real interest in miracles, they waited for 2 messiahs, and their Sabbath laws were insanely strict. All major points where early Christianity went in a completely different direction.
So what's our final verdict? The evidence really does paint a very clear picture. The people of Qumran were a hyper-devout, apocalyptic, and purist Jewish sect. They truly believed they were the last remnant of true faith left on earth, a tiny island of purity standing against a corrupt world that was teetering on the brink of a final cosmic war between good and evil.
In the end, they were wiped out by the Romans. Their unique worldview, their rules, their entire way of life, it was seemingly extinguished. But this leaves us with one final, lingering question to think about. Were they just a forgotten, fringe sect that disappeared into the dust of history? Or was their intense, uncompromising way of life, their radical blueprint for devotion, something that still echoes in different movements and individuals even today?